In theory, it should be happening. Someone has to say hello now. Gotta tell me you can see it. Only them will know this is happening. There we go. It's happening. Guess I should look at this chat, not that chat. I don't know why I need headphones. I can't. There's no guest today. That's really super strange. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me for this totally impromptu just hangout. I was all set to be reporting on the TESS launch, and it didn't happen. So the launch has been delayed for a couple of days. I think it's got a 48-hour scrub, and then it's going to be happening. So I just thought I would jump on and do this. So Space TV is asking that if this is a regular thing. So I used to do this on a regular basis. I was doing these sort of live stream QAs once a week on Mondays around this time. And literally like 10 minutes ago, I was like, man, I got to start those streams up again. And then I thought, oh, okay, I will do it right now. And so I did. Now I do a ton of other live streams. We do the weekly Space Hangout on Wednesdays. I do the Astronomy Cast on Fridays, but I don't just do sort of a direct live stream here on my own channel. So I figured I would just do that, and so I figured I would just hang out with folks and just answer any questions that you have about space and astronomy live, as opposed to sort of after the fact, the way I do the QAs. And you can just pick my brains. And there's a ton of value for me in doing these live streams. Again, why am I wearing headphones? There's no point. There's no sound. There's no one I'm talking to. Audio. So doing these live streams sort of brings my brain into what's happening right now and what kinds of things you want to know about. And so I really find these really useful and valuable for my brain, because a lot of them just turn into episodes. So Emil wants to know, do I play any computer games? Yeah, I play a ton of computer games. I have a gigantic Steam library. I have about 1,000 games in my Steam library. Right now, I'm playing Stellaris and the new version 2.0, the Apocalypse. But I've got, what have I been playing recently? RimWorld, Witcher 3, Fallout 4. I got a ton of stuff. So I don't have a lot of time to play games, which is sort of my sadness. So again, I'm trying to figure out some way to be able to bring my computer games into the live stream that we did. And I actually went and did a live stream on my Twitch channel Saturday, and I played Stellaris for 3 hours. So if you want to watch that, you can do that. Someone wanted me to talk about the really cool TESS orbit. Man, I feel like I wanted to show you guys tomorrow's episode today. Should I do that? Do you want to do that? Do you want me to show you? Want to get a sneak preview of tomorrow's episode? Let's see if we can do that. Let me think on that. Play PUBG. No, I don't think I'll be playing PUBG. Well, that's what the kid does. He does that, and he does Fortnite, and he's super good at it. He's playing Dead by Dawn right now, and he's super, super good at it. All right, let's tackle some questions now. The orbit of TESS, right? So TESS is doing this really cool orbit where it goes around twice for every time that the moon goes around once, and it's a really neat orbit. And again, I wish I could, I should be a little more organized about this. I apologize. I will be more organized next time. I'll be able to show better media. And it's a brand new orbit. It's called a P2, lunar orbit. I forget the name of it. Anyway, and so what it does is so it goes sort of high up above the Earth and goes around twice every time the moon goes around once. And my dome is magnificent. Yeah. And this has never been used before, and it goes on this sort of very elliptical orbit, and so it gets very close to the Earth, and then it gets very far from the Earth. And over the course of this process, it will, when it gets to its closest, it's going to be sort of within the Van Allen belts. It's going to be able to communicate all its information to the Earth, and then it's going to fly out to the far point of its orbit, where it's going to sort of do a bunch of its research and then come back. And so every kind of 2 weeks, it's going to be close to the Earth and transmitting all this exoplanet data. And I'm so excited about what TESS is going to be able to do. And again, I've got this whole video. I'll totally do this preview of it. I think I'll try. And it's going to be able to observe the entire sky, and it's going to be able to observe about 500,000 stars, nearby stars, all of the closest stars. And so if there is a close star, it's going to, that has planets around it, it's going to be able to find it. We are going to know all of the stars that have planets that are lined up with us. So it's a pretty amazing scientific mission, and I'm really stoked about it. Patriots Fan 12, have you watched Lost in Space on Netflix yet? Yes, I have watched the first 3 episodes, and I am not thrilled. I gotta say, I'm not super enjoying it. It's funny. So in the first episode, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but it is like rescue Inception. So it's like the first person has to rescue the second person who is trying to rescue the third person who's trying to rescue the fourth person. And I was just wondering how many people they could stack up of rescues. It was pretty hilarious. So there you go. Arispan, so can TESS find Earth-sized exoplanets orbiting sun-like stars in the Goldilocks zone? Yeah, and so TESS is going to be able to find all of the bright, I guess all of the stars within, it all depends. I mean, but it's going to essentially observe the 500,000 brightest stars in the sky, and then any of those that have planets orbiting around them. It's going to be able to find, the estimate is going to be about 200 or 300 Earth-like planets, and then the same number of super Earth-like planets. These are the planets with sort of more gravity. And just, that number of planets is going to be able to turn up is just going to be amazing. And unlike Kepler, which right now is locked on sort of finding these red dwarf stars, it's going to be able to find, like Kepler during its K2, because it was busted, could only find planets around red dwarf stars. But TESS is going to be able to find them around Earth-like. It's going to be able to find them around sun-like stars, all kinds of things like that, and red dwarf stars. So it's pretty exciting. It's a pretty exciting thing that we're going to be looking forward to. I always thought that Kepler was going to be the one that was going to find the Earth 2.0, and it never did, right? Because it broke down on the 3rd year, it was never able to find it. But now TESS is going to come along and it's going to find it. So that's the hope. Do not delete this video. I won't. What I used to do before was I would try to make it a little more official. I would pull up pictures, and then I would try to make it answer the questions and leave the answer down in the bottom while I was doing it. And so I'll be a little more organized and formal next week, but I thought I would just turn on the recording and just hang out with you guys. Hey, Zenderman. So, gotta change your username, LDSK. You're like a volcano in Iceland. Here's your question, though. Any thoughts on the Event Horizon Telescope project? Right. So the Event Horizon Telescope is this worldwide network of radio telescopes. It's not actually one telescope. It's just a whole bunch of radio telescopes all around the world that are going to be taking the first direct image of the event horizon of the supermassive black hole at the heart of the Milky Way. And this has never been done. And the data has been gathered, but the part that I just love about this is that the data from Antarctica was taken during the Antarctic winter. And so in order to actually do the data, they had to bring all of, they had to fly out the tapes, essentially the hard drives that had all that data. And man, what that did was, you know, it's just it's amazing to think about the amount of data that's going to take to be able to produce this image. And I kind of thought that, because they did the data back in the summer of last year, and I sort of thought that we would have gotten that image now. So really, they're crunching it right now, and we should see that first image of the event horizon anytime now. Of course, it's going to be disappointing. Like, you got to know that it's going to be sort of sad when we first see it. It's going to be a blob, right? But it's going to be a very interesting blob because we've never seen anything like that before. All right, that's another question. What my PC specs are? I don't remember. I hate computers. It's an i5, I think, and a 970 video card, 16 gigs of RAM. It's not great. Chad has a much better computer. He's got like a brand new i7 dual core that he uses for editing, and he's traveling in Europe right now, so he's left his super fancy computer right beside me, and every now and then I have to give it a kick so they can edit a video remotely. But it's pretty awesome. And at some point, I want to make that my gaming rig, actually. Sean Champagne, do I have a Tesla? Interested in getting one? No, I don't have a Tesla. My best friend has two of them, and he did much better than I did in the software world. And it's awesome. Like, I love driving in it, but I would much rather spend money on building my business, on getting computer gear, going traveling, camera gear, things, telescope, things like that. So, if I make so much money I have nothing to spend, then maybe I get a Tesla. But until then, like a crappy old Honda is what I use. Aerospan, do you have a day job, or is this it? Hoping this is it. Yeah, so my day job, for anyone who doesn't know what my day job is that I am the publisher of Universe Today, which is a space and astronomy news website. And I've been doing that for 19 years now. I founded the website in 1999, so it's just closing in on my 20-year anniversary of doing this. And when I started, it was just a side gig from what I was doing. I was working for a web development company out of Vancouver, and I loved, man, I want to answer that party balloon question in a second. So I loved space and astronomy, and I wanted to get more experience in building a website, and so I just started Universe Today as a side gig. And within like 3 months, I'm like, okay, this is going to be my job for the rest of my life. Like, I just knew. And I've been able to sort of grow the website. We get several million people a month visiting the website. We've got probably a dozen freelance writers, many who now are too busy because they're writing books, who write articles for the website. I do the Astronomy Cast podcast, and this whole video thing is actually fairly new. I've only been doing it for the last 5 years or so, and it's just an experience, to sort of growing experience. So I'm really glad you guys are enjoying it. I'm here for the long haul. I mean, I've dedicated my whole life to this. I'm going to be here for, I've been doing this for decades, and I plan to be doing this for decades more. Let's talk about the balloon. Right. So Elon Musk mentioned in his Twitter that he was going to try and bring back a second stage rocket using a party balloon. And that's not crazy, right? The idea is that you take a piece of space junk and you attach a balloon to it. You inflate the balloon, and what that does is it creates a bigger cross section for the rocket. And so then the rocket will hit more of the Earth's atmosphere and will deorbit. And this is an idea that's been kicking around. And one of the requirements is that was that space junk has a way of returning to Earth. And so there have been various ideas using lasers, putting rockets on your space junk. But this idea of just putting a balloon on a piece of that is going to be debris will make it deorbit more quickly than it would normally. And so what might have taken, say, I don't know, several years to deorbit might come down in a matter of weeks or months. Andy Cowley, we need the virtual star party back, please. Okay, good news. The virtual star party is going to be returning. But that's all I know right now. I've got a partnership with OPT, Oceanside Photo and Telescope, and they've built a remote telescope setup. And so one of the big problems for people who don't know, the virtual star party was this live telescope streaming that we did several years ago, and we had a great time. But the problem was that it was like herding cats every week because each individual astronomer had to have good skies, technology that was working and functioning, and so we would be all ready to do the show, and then for whatever reason things fell through. So this time around I learned from my mistake, and as sort of the backbone of it is this really great telescope facility that's out of the California desert, I believe, and then we're going to use that as sort of the guaranteed telescopes, and then other friends are going to jump in and stream from their own telescopes as well, and then we're going to get astronomers on, and we're going to talk about stuff in space. So that is coming, I promise you. I would say sooner than later. I would say you're going to see the virtual star party. It's going to have a new name, I think. I think we're going to call it the weekly star party. I haven't really sort of thought this through yet. But I loved it, and I know you loved it all as well. So I do plan to bring it back. Stay tuned. So Derek Fester wants to know, do I think the party balloon will work? Yeah, I do think it'll work. I think you're going to see, these balloons as a practical way of bringing space junk back. Oh, you need to be banned. Hold on a second. Oh, I should set some. Let's hide you. Goodbye. That work? There you go. I should set my mods. Normally I have a bunch of mods that'll do this. So, okay, we get it. We get the user will be hidden. Rumpelstiltskin. Would a starshade coronagraph work for Hubble exoplanet observation? Thanks in advance. Yeah. The starshade is this idea of it being a separate coronagraph, something that would fly about 10,000 kilometers away from the Earth, from the spacecraft, and would block out the light from the sun. And then you would be able to see the planets right beside the sort of the part that's blocking. And so right now, the sun, the reason Hubble can't really detect planets around other stars is because it has no way to block out that really bright light from the star and be able to see the things that are right beside it. So a starshade is this sort of completely separate spacecraft that would fly about 10,000 kilometers away from Hubble or James Webb or anything like that, and be able to block out the light from that star. And so, yeah, there's no reason why a coronagraph wouldn't work for the Hubble Space Telescope, and then it could work for the James Webb Telescope. Although, I mean, James Webb is going to be like 2.5 million kilometers away from the Earth, so they couldn't use the same one. But yeah, absolutely, the starshade is one of my favorite ideas, and we actually got a chance to speak with Sarah Seeger on the Weekly Space Hangout last year, I believe, and talked about the starshade and coronagraph and some of the ideas. So yeah, no, I'm pretty stoked about that. Zapfan, talk about the telescope in the background. I think he's using the question mark. Good one. So that is a... it's all reversed. That is a 70 millimeter apochromatic refractor telescope made by Stellar View with a Explore Scientific's mount. It was provided by Oceanside Photo and Telescope. And they're the same partners that I'm going to be working with on doing the return of the virtual star party. So, what are the binoculars on the shelf for? Bird watching? No, those are astronomical binoculars. So they're 15 by 75 binoculars, and they are the greatest. I highly recommend. if you want to get into amateur astronomy in any way, shape, or form, first thing you should do is buy a pair of those binoculars. They are the best. They let you see star clusters. You can see some of the planets. You can see features on the moon, just the Milky Way. I really like sort of when you have the dual optics, the binocular vision of both eyeballs. It's a really great way. You sort of fall into the sky. So if you don't have a pair of binoculars and you want to learn the night sky and you're thinking of getting a telescope, start with the binoculars. And there I see the sweet words asking me that question. Just bought a telescope. Do you have any recommendations? I don't really have any recommendations. Just get out as often as you can and learn your constellations. So, when I was like 13, 14 years old, I got my first telescope, and I was really lucky. I lived in really dark skies on Vancouver Island. And so I would just spend night after night out learning the constellations. And after a while, you see the night sky like this really familiar roadmap that you're like, oh, look, there's constellation of Andromeda, right? And then I know how to find the Andromeda galaxy because I know these stars and that stars, and it's just a little off from that thing. And there's the double cluster in Perseus and things like that. So the first thing that you should do, and that's why binoculars are so great, is you can just go out, take out the binoculars, learn your constellations, and go from there. Eldon Crom, TESS's upper stage perigee will remain near Earth, right? How much delta V to get into the aerobraking territory and then deploy the party balloon? I don't know specifically the trajectory of the upper stage that SpaceX is going to be launching for the TESS mission. As I mentioned earlier, this balloon method is a sort of theorized way to return space junk quickly so that it doesn't remain in orbit. So I'm not sure sort of exactly what trajectory they're going to take. Elon Musk didn't give a lot of details, and we're gonna jump on this and report on it. But I don't really know exactly what the plans are. So if you know anything, I would love to hear it. But right now we're just kind of flying blind. He just said, by the way, we're going to use a balloon. So there you go. All right, let's get another question. Edward Hinton, have you ever seen anything in the sky that you couldn't explain? No, I have never seen anything in the sky that I can't explain. And I think that's a big part of it. Hold on a second here. Someone's trying to get a hold of me. Yeah, so I haven't seen anything that I can't explain. And part of it's like once you know the night sky, right? You know where Venus is. You know where the airplanes are. You know what the satellites are. You know what auroras look like. You know when some of the bright planets are near and close by. Then everything is expected. One of the cool things that I've wanted to see, I've seen one bolide, which is a really bright meteor, and I've never seen an iridium flare, which a lot of people have noted, and I really wish that I could. And because they're going to be coming down pretty soon, that whole satellite constellation is going to stop working. And so if you sometimes look up in the sky and you see this bright flash, that can be an iridium flare, which is like this really shiny surface on this satellite. And when it happens to tumble in a way that reflects the sunlight, you see this really bright flash and then it goes away. And I would love to be able to see that. And so far I haven't. Random stuff. Can you talk about the Voyager booster restarts? I'm going to need more information because I don't know what you're talking about. Are they planning? They restarted the thrusters on Voyager. I feel like it was a couple of years ago, and it was like after 30 years, the thruster system on the Voyager still works fine. And unfortunately, we're going to be losing the Voyagers probably in the next 5 to 10 years. So it's not the thrusters that are going to go. It's going to be its nuclear battery is going to degrade to the point that it no longer can provide enough energy to heat the spacecraft, to keep the electronics warmed up, and they're going to die. Orbital mechanics mathematics. I don't know. Is that a question? By Mr. X. I play Kerbal Space Program. I've learned more about how orbital mechanics works through playing Kerbal Space Program than I have through nearly 20 years of science space journalism. It's an amazing program. Oh, sorry, Ghost World. I'm going to try to do this once a week, so stay tuned. Let's see if there are any more questions now. What's my favorite bit of science fiction right now? I'm really enjoying The Expanse. That is definitely one of my favorite. Here we go. Let me just do this. This one. Where's Zapfan? There you go. Boom. There you go. I just made some mods. What's my favorite sci-fi? Yeah, I'm really enjoying The Expanse. I love season 1. I love season 2, and season 3 just started up, and I really loved even the first episode. And my wife's read all the books, so she's kind of ahead, and so she's prepared for where the story is going to be going. I'm not. So yeah, I'm really loving The Expanse. I mean, The Expanse has one big gotcha. Apologize, now the sun is coming in on the side here, which is very unusual for the west coast of Canada. Yeah, The Expanse has one big thing you have to give it, which is that they're using these high-powered fusion drives that can accelerate for like 10G for a very long time. And I don't, we don't know anything that could do that. Maybe metallic hydrogen, but I think that is, that is the most energy dense fuel source that we know. Beyond that, there's no way that we could sustain any kind of thrust for longer than really just a couple of minutes at a high degree of thrust. And that's sort of why in The Expanse they can have this cool gravity. Everything else in it, though, is great. So they say, well, like, if we could have this kind of acceleration, then what would space flight look like? How would space combat work? And all that is great. And so I have no problem whatsoever with any other part of the science of The Expanse. I really enjoy it. And if you haven't watched it, highly recommend it. Warbash wants to know, how can we reconcile space exploration with this crazy no contamination policy, the one they blew Cassini about? We can't reconcile it, right? In order to explore the solar system, we are going to have to touch it, right? And that means setting down our spacecraft on worlds like Mars, or eventually, right? I did a whole episode on what it's going to be like to land on Europa. So imagine you send a spacecraft, it lands on Europa, it drills down into the liquid water oceans beneath and searches for life. And then on the other hand, we know that Earth bacteria can survive the journey to other worlds. And so we're going to get to a point. I mean, we can try to clean and try to decontaminate our spacecraft as much as we can, but we're going to get to a point where that jig is up. There's no way for us to be able to maintain any kind of any kind of complete decontamination, and we're going to run the risk of getting to a point where we're going to be discovering life on these other worlds, and it's going to be life that we contaminated on these worlds. And when you think about things like what SpaceX is doing, the way they're planning to colonize Mars, there's no way you can try to prevent the contamination of Mars at that point. It's done. So I think that these places are going to be pristine for as long as they possibly can, and then humans are gonna wreck them just like we do everything. Do I have any kids? Yes, I have 2 kids. Married? Yes, married. My wife is my camera wife. Carla does the camera work on my videos, and my children, Chloe and Logan. Chloe's 16, Logan's 14. So, and actually announced their births on my website way back in the day. So, they're doing great. Logan is a monster on various video games, and my daughter is a sci-fi author. So it's pretty exciting. Let's see, get some more questions. Yeah, Derek, don't worry. I'm used to trolls. Um, I'm not seeing a lot of troll questions. I'm seeing really cool questions. So, and I just put in some people to be moderators, so I'm sure they'll be fine. Um, Maybe they'll become space scientists. I don't think they will. My son really enjoys watching like chemistry stuff. He's a big fan of Cody's lab, and I like, and Cody is a fan of my channel, and I'm a fan of Cody's channel, so that's great. And so he likes chemistry. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes down that route or becomes a chef or musician. I don't know. And my daughter is definitely going to be a writer. She's probably going to be writing sci-fi, or is going to be like doing animation writing, things like that. Charles Selgas, what are your expectations by 2030? Do you think SpaceX will make history by landing on Mars and will continue to dominate? Let's see, 2030. I'm going to say that by 2030, SpaceX will have not launched their first humans to Mars. This is my guess, right? I don't want to be a bummer on the whole SpaceX thing. I think they are going to launch and test the BFR. I think it's going to happen within the next couple of years. I mean, they're saying that they're going to see the first tests of the BFR next year, and they're going to see the first orbital flights of it by 2020. But we've seen that timelines tend to slip from SpaceX. So I wouldn't be surprised if it, maybe we see the BFR start to fly by 2022, 2023. And then they're going to have the full booster stack maybe flying a couple of years after that. But it's one thing to sort of get that hardware into space. It's quite another thing to actually go to Mars. There's so many engineering challenges to go along with it. What are people going to breathe? What are people going to eat? How are they going to live? Where are they going to get their electronics? How are they going to be protected from radiation? So I'm super excited about this, and I think they are going to move down that timeline, but I think it's just going to happen a little more slowly. So I'd say around 2030 would be my guess. And again, this is just me following my experience of watching people, including SpaceX, make predictions for when they're going to have things completed and how long it actually takes. Now, I find SpaceX is like this unstoppable machine of their momentum. Like now, they are launching Falcon rockets every 2 weeks. They are landing them. They are reusing them. It's just, it's astonishing that they have now mastered this technology, this road that they started down 10 years ago. So that's my feeling. I don't think they're going to make it by 2030, but I think we'll definitely see them try by the 2030s. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a mission to the moon a lot more earlier than that. So that's my take. Whoa, thanks for the $10. That's awesome. Will we be ever to get to Proxima Centauri? Also, what are your thoughts on 2001: Space Odyssey? I'll do that backwards. 2001: Space Odyssey freaked me out. It was the scariest movie I had ever seen. I was like 6 years old when I saw it, and I couldn't sleep all night. The thought of that, the spooky computer, everything just had me terrified. And I still have a traumatic experience. Okay, I'm going to admit, I have not watched 2001 since that moment, since I was like 6 years old, and it freaked me right out. So at some point, I will watch it again with fresh, modern eyes. And And then the second question, do I think that we're going to go to Proxima Centauri? Well, apparently Proxima Centauri sucks. Like, let's start with that. Like, it's barely worth going to. We know that there are these big super flares that reach the planet and scour it of any kind of life. So if you want to go and watch a red dwarf star, you know, hit its poor planets with flares, then, you know, be my guest. But obviously the question is, how long is it going to take before we have some kind of interstellar capable spacecraft? And again, this kind of technology is going to take us a while, right? It's going to probably take us another, the most viable technology that has come out so far is this idea of, from the Breakthrough Starshot, this laser propulsion system where you take these micro probes with little tiny sails and you zap them, and they fly to Alpha Centauri at, say, 10% the speed of light. Well, I mean, there are so many challenges to go with this, right? Like being able to have your lasers and have the infrastructure and be able to zap these things and be able to guide them properly. And then if they make the journey, as they make the journey, are they going to be smashed by interstellar dust? Can they even go that fast? There's so many questions that we just don't know. I think, personally, I mean, I loved the idea of Breakthrough Starshot explaining, in public that they're going to send probes to Alpha Centauri. But I think it is the way to explore the solar system, right? It's the way you send probes out to the farthest reaches, set up an orbital laser, send up thousands of these little nano satellites and start zapping them all over the solar system and have them communicate with each other and create this network of communication systems. So I think we have a lot of infrastructure to go just in the solar system before we try to reach out to other worlds. So I think the way it's going to look is we're going to we're going to get started. SpaceX is going to build a ton of momentum. We're going to start building this really surprisingly big infrastructure in space in the solar system over the next, say, 100 years. And then we'll try to be reaching out to other star systems. That's just my opinion. We'll see what happens. Let's see. Do I believe in planets? Yes. Yeah, so John Michael Gaudier, by the way, John Michael Gaudier, check out his channel, is watching. One of the best YouTubers going right now. So someone put a link to John's channel, because I'm sure he's going to be too ashamed to do it. But yeah, 2010 was a good movie in its own right. And I love 2010. I was older and it didn't freak me out. So I'll do it. I'll go back and I'll watch 2001. You have my solemn promise. I'll do it. What was the other movie that freaked me out? I had like 2 or 3 movies. We had this movie place called The Ridge in Vancouver, and they used to do these movie triple bills, and so you would go and watch 3 movies. And I had older friends and family who would loved going to these movies, but it was for me as like a 6-year-old, 7-year-old. Oh, Star Trek, the motion picture freaked me out too. Again, I was maybe 7 years old, 8 years old, and it just terrified me. So. Yeah, that was and I haven't watched that movie since. Although it's not like I think I need to, because it's not like it's sort of this deep and meaningful space exploration flick in the way that 2001 was. And I've read a ton of Arthur C. Clarke. Anyway, clearly I need to have a therapist to talk about this or something. Was Alien one of them? No, Alien wasn't, but Aliens was. Again, it's all about the ages, right? I watched Alien when I was older. I watched Aliens when I was like 15 years old, I think, and I couldn't believe my mind. In fact, my buddy, Paco, is watching, I think, and he and I watched Aliens together for the first time. So, shout out to Paco, who's watching right now. Christopher Brown Lloyd, Event Horizon freaked me out a little. It didn't freak me out, but again, I watched it when I was older. So. There you go. Cosmic Lettuce, just subscribe to John Michael Gaudier's YouTube channel. Done. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Charge Ale, Wrath of Khan freaked me out when they stuck the worm in that guy's ear. Yeah, that freaked me out too. Yeah, I think I was 15, and so I was. But Aliens, it was the perfect thing for me. I was like on the one hand, totally nervous, but on the other hand, like just so excited by the spacecraft and the aliens and the fighting. I just loved it. So there you go. There's my buddy Francisco. We went to watch that movie, I think, in Vancouver when we were like 15. So, how cool is that? To have one of my best friends here in the chat. All right. I'll go for another 20 minutes or so. Hey, Poltergeist freaked me out. I would love to hear from people. That's a great question. I got to ask that question to more people. Like, what's a movie that freaked you out that wouldn't have, that didn't freak most people out? Stormbringer Mournblade. So what you're saying is that man will live long enough to build a space station system before he trashes the place. Yeah, we are human beings. We ruin everything. What? I mean, come on. But the reality is, I think that we're going to get to this place where we are going to be able to get all of the heavy industry, all of the polluting stuff off of Earth, and let's just make Earth the best place in the universe. It already is, right? We know that Earth is the best place in the universe, but let's get all the parts that make it bad off the planet, and then we can just really enjoy our own planet. I mean, that's one of the reasons. This is the thing that Jeff Bezos has been saying from Blue Origin, which is different from what Elon Musk has been saying. And that his take on that really resonates with me more than colonizing Mars. Like, I totally get it. Let's colonize Mars. Let's have a backup copy so that if something bad happens to Earth, then we'll have a place to go. But I really like this idea of making Earth better. Like, I haven't explored all of Earth yet. Right? I haven't been to Australia. I haven't seen Antarctica. I haven't been to the Arctic. I haven't been to Asia. I haven't been to Africa. I haven't been to South America. There's a lot of places here on Earth that are totally worth exploring. And then you think about all of the things that we're doing to our planet, releasing carbon dioxide and mining out the precious metals and using up all our helium, that we could just get rid of all that stuff. So, Neon Visual, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Next question. And then next Einstein. No, absolutely not. I have just been doing this job of space journalism for a long time. And I think that's important, right? Like, if you enjoy something and you can get really good at it, if you are willing to put in a lot of work over a long period of time. So I highly recommend it. Find out what you love as early as you can and do it for as long as you can. Mike McHugh, there may be better planets than Earth. Maybe, but I doubt planets that are as good as Earth for our evolution, right? We evolved hand in hand with Earth. So I can't imagine a place that would be better than this planet for who we are and what we require. And at the same time, we are wrecking it to a certain extent. So I would love for us to not wreck it and have a better life and have all the stuff that we want, because the rest of the universe that we know of right now is there's nothing out there, right? Let's grab all the stuff and let's make Earth better. That's my opinion. Don Archangel, will the next Einstein be an AI? Good question. Probably. I think you saw my last QA, right? What are the existential crises that face humanity? I think we're going to wipe ourselves out with either an AI or some kind of bioweapon. So, yeah. The capacitor. What are my thoughts on NASA's mission to Psyche? Do I have a mouse? Oh, hold on. Let me grab this. So one of the things that I have is a nickel metal meteorite, and it's a chunk of space metal, and this came from a meteorite strike that hit the Earth back in about 5,000 years ago in Argentina, and it is awesome. And I think that if you if you want like a really cool thing, if you want like something that shows like, hey, I've got something from space, buy a meteorite. And Psyche is going to be a mission that's going to go and actually explore one of these things, and it could be sort of the core of a planetoid. So yeah, I think we should totally go there. Um, when's my next collab with Isaac Arthur? I don't know. Suggest a topic. He's done everything. That guy just lives in the future. Talk about the next Einstein. Yeah, Campo del Cielo. He's not seeing our questions, I guess. Top chat, not live chat. Wait, what? Oh, yeah, I am seeing the top chat. There's the live chat. I like the top chat now. I totally forgot there was a top chat and a live chat. I can see what people are talking about, the spam and trolls. There you go. It's boring now. Paul Velikov, have you heard any news about the lander on the Europa Clipper mission? No. The last NASA budget was huge, and they got a ton of new sort of additional money than what they were expecting. And so one of the things that they got was it may be that a lander on the Europa Clipper mission is back in. So we're still sort of waiting to see what the actual implications of that, because, them actually developing a lander is going to take a while to add it to the Europa Clipper mission. So we'll see whether that happens. Jamie Ball, do you think JWST will resolve the very first stars? Yes, it will. Visual, go back to the top chat. They look about the same. Go back to the top chat. Let's see. It's the same. So the whole point of the James Webb Space Telescope is it's going to be able to resolve the first stars of the universe. So, there's this thing that's called the age of reionization. And it's this last big mystery that cosmologists want to be able to look at. It's this time when the stars lit up after the cosmic microwave background. And right now, we've got really good detailed imagery of the cosmic microwave background, but not this next time, this age of reionization. And this is really what James Webb is going to do. And while it's at it, it's going to do things like find planets, detect the atmospheres of terrestrial planets orbiting other stars, and all kinds of stuff like that. But that is the main thing that's going to be able to do. And right now, Hubble occasionally gets to spot really distant galaxies, but it has to do these bank shots, right? It has to use some intervening galaxy cluster as a natural telescope. But James Webb is going to be able to do this kind of thing directly. It's going to brute force look right out to the edge of the observable universe and see these first forming stars and galaxies. This is why this thing is so important. You can't understate how important the James Webb Space Telescope is going to be. And it's already at whatever, $8.5 billion. And it's going to take a couple more years to develop. It's got to go above 10 billion by the time it's all done. So much is riding on James Webb. I really, really, really want it to happen. Ghost World, not to get political at all, but are you happy with the administration's more generous budget for NASA? Yes, thank you, right? I'm a Canadian, so it doesn't really matter. We didn't have anything to do with it, but absolutely. More money. We were freaked out. Everyone in the space science community was completely freaked out and thought that there was going to be budget cuts and that there was going to be all kinds of science missions killed, and Earth science and human spaceflight and all that kind of stuff. And all of that stuff was approved, and in many cases, budgets were increased. It's the best budget for planetary science that has happened in decades, and so it's great. I am, kudos to the U.S. Now, it's not necessarily the actual White House administration that did it. In fact, they submitted the budget that had all of the big cuts to it, but Congress and the Senate, Congress went over their head and approved a larger budget. So I think we're going to be okay. But we'll see. Edward Hinton, James Webb would be the biggest disappointment in space history if it malfunctions in orbit. Yeah, we get one shot at this, right? If James, my joke is I plan to just like take James Webb and just encase it in glass, and then that way it never launches and it can never fail and it can never break our hearts. But there's no second on this. You can't just go and build another one, right? It is so complicated and so technical, and there's so much riding on this mission that it just has to happen. Right, to Arctic Warfare, NASA canceled W first. No, they didn't. They've uncanceled it. So this is one of the benefits of this new budget. So no, everything is good. How close do you see asteroid mining, Raffle 23? So asteroid mining is good. I think we're going to see some attempts at asteroid mining probably in the next 20 years or so. When the SpaceX BFR starts to launch, it's going to be able to do things like fly to nearby asteroids, pick them up, bring them home, right? Because it'll be able to hold so much in its cargo holds. It's going to be able to do things like land on the moon. Like just the BFR alone will be able to fly to space, land on the moon, pick up, astronauts can walk around on the surface of the moon, and then it will fly home. Like it'll recreate the Apollo missions, just brute force, just because it's got that much power and capability. So I think you can see them attempting to do some asteroid mining. The problem is, again, the engineering challenges. How do you land and connect and dock and mine and gather resources and return them to Earth? All of these challenges, return them to space. Like there's a ton of challenges to go through, and they're going to become engineering challenges that I don't think anybody is ready for yet. But people are going to figure them out one at a time. What's the books? I don't know, a ton of books. I get sent books all the time because we interview people on the weekly Space Hangout. And often, if we're going to interview someone who's written a book, then they'll send me a copy of the book. And so they kind of pile up. I know this is like a humble brag, right? They pile up, and then I take them down to the library and I donate them to my local library so that they can get books. So that's about 6 months of books, and there's a couple there that I like, but no, they're all just review copies of books that publishers have wanted to promote. So there you go. What kinds of asteroids in our solar system are expected to be valuable for mining? The thing that's most valuable is the orbit. So you want a spacecraft that doesn't require a lot of delta V to get to, right? That is the most valuable thing. And so there are a bunch of these. One, for example, TESS. I forget some of the names of some of the other asteroids, but there's a bunch that are in this really close orbit to the Earth. And so it requires only a little bit more delta V than a little more delta V than just to get into low Earth orbit to then actually rendezvous and dock with one of these asteroids. It's surprisingly low. And this is why the Obama administration was originally pursuing this idea of an asteroid mission, was because they because they were very easy to get to, and there's a lot of technology and a lot of commercial outcomes to go from there. So they'll have all kinds of things on them. They're going to have ice in their, under the regolith. They're going to have various minerals. They're going to have metals. Some things like iridium and palladium and platinum and things like that are very rare on Earth. So those are the kinds of things that that you're going to want to be able to pull from asteroids. So acknowledge the Dutch fake moon rocks, but he won't. I'm recording this. I don't even know what you're talking about. Can we take a beer break, please? I'm going to wrap up this recording in 5 minutes. So then you'll get your beer break. And I'm going to go eat dinner. Yaman S. Do you believe that humans will lose their individuality and combine in one giant connected God, like how it's happening gradually in China with Facebook? Or do you believe we will retain individuality? Whoa. I think that we are building our successors with technology, with computers. So, whatever the super intelligent, super artificial intelligent computers that we build wants to do, then it's going to be up to them. And I don't think we really have a lot of control over it. We're going to build them. They're going to have an opinion, and we're going to kind of have to do what they say. M. Clemens, is Hollywood getting time travel really wrong, in my opinion? Wouldn't Marty McFly just pop up in the vacuum of space with the Earth billions of miles away? Yeah, there's so many reasons why time travel is handled incorrectly in all science fiction. And there's a great video. At some point, someone should find it and post it, where I actually posed a question to Neil deGrasse Tyson for his Star Talk show. And that was the gist of my question to him was, well, isn't the fact that we don't see any time travelers proof that there will never be time travel? Right? We don't see any time travelers around. None have ever been recorded. Therefore, there will never be time travel. So there you go. But I always imagine this idea of, like, you've got Hitler's bathroom and it's just filled to the brim with time travelers, just kept popping in to try and assassinate him. Someone know if I believed in aliens? I was wondering if when that question would come. I did a whole episode called "Do I Believe in Aliens?" And the answer is, I have not seen any evidence that is compelling enough to make me think that we have seen any evidence of aliens whatsoever. So, but I can't wait to be proven wrong. Robert Wicko, slip a mole inside SpaceX to give its continuing coverage as the BFR is designed. Did you see the picture of the tool that that Elon Musk shared of how they're going to be actually fabricating the BFR? It's this gigantic rotating cylinder where they'll be constructing it, and it's just enormous. So I can't wait. Any comments on Art Bell? Not really. I never listened to Art Bell. I mean, as a Canadian, we didn't really have it on the same kinds of radio stations, so I never got a chance to listen to it. I was kind of sad by the kinds of guests that he would sort of let say things. I mean, there's a lot of channels here, even on YouTube, that are hurting people, right? They're scaring people about the apocalypse, about planets, about things like that. And all their predictions are wrong because they're not scientific. They're not astronomical. They are, I don't know whether they're trolling or whether they are, whether there's some kind of religious undertone to what they're doing, but I don't think they believe it. So, and I get emails all the time from people who are terrified that the world is coming to an end. Children, right? A person who's like 13 years old who is terrified because they've been reading all of these posts about how the world is going to kind of come to an end on April 23rd. And it's not, right? Remember 2012 and remember all these other things. It's never going to come to an end until it does, but that'll be billions of years from now. So I get super annoyed by that kind of scaremongering, and I don't really understand what the purpose is. I don't understand why they do it, but it's harmful. And I think that Art Bell had a lot of those kinds of people on as guests, and so he had other times when he had my buddy Phil Plait on as a guest, and I think that was great. So he had real scientists, and he clearly loved space science, but he didn't bring on, wasn't able to handle the kinds of guests that he was dealing with skeptically. So that was my opinion. And, but I know he was sort of beloved by a lot of people. So, that's my take. All right. It's been an hour, 6:00, time to wrap things up, but I promise we'll come back and we'll do this again. So thanks everyone for joining me on this totally impromptu live stream. I'll be a little more prepared next time with better technology and some screens and stuff, as opposed to just staring into the camera and looking up on my other window where I've got my chat. I'll get this all a little bit more sorted out. So, to see any bears all the time. We see bears every year. Just not while we're recording episodes yet. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks, everybody. If you haven't already, sign up for my Patreon. It's the best way to support the show. If you can't, if you don't have any money, I totally get that. Watch more videos. That is the way that you can help get people say, oh, you should have more subscribers. Well, the way you do that is you send the right signals to YouTube. So, if you haven't seen all the videos in the back catalog, go watch another one. virtual star party coming back. You heard it here. I'll let you know when it actually goes live. And I will see you all tomorrow with an episode about TESS and Kepler, and then a new QA in the works as well. All right, we'll see you later this week. Now I'd stop this.